Good evening and welcome to the December meeting of the Macomb Park District Board of Commissioners. Obviously, our last meeting of the year. And as always, whether it's the first meeting or the last meeting, the first agenda item is always the approval of the agenda. A motion, please.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, please? Aye.
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 Opposed? And the agenda stands approved. Consideration of and action on the minutes from the November meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions?
Move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes as published. Is there a second, please?
I second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as published. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes stand approved. Bills and transfers, monthly financial statements. Commissioner Ham, please.
Thank you, John. As far as November's consolidated fund, the cash on hand at the end of the month was around $127,336. We ended the month $34,064 below the budget. Year-to-date, overall, we're setting around $131,574 better than the budget. The general fund, we ended the November with $412,860 in cash on hand. Overall end of the month, we were above the budget projections by $12,666. However, for the year-to-date overall, we're still below the budget expectations by $7,422. The corporate fund, end of November with revenues around $100 below the budget. The expenses ran below the budget also for the month, $3,768. So overall for this year, we are setting $20,925 below the budget projections at the end of November. Recreation revenues ended above the budget for the month, $964. The expenses ended November $582 more than the budget. For the month, we ended $382 above the projections. With the year-to-date overall, we're still $34,080 below the budget projections. Lakeview, year-to-date, overall, we're running below the budget expectations by $3,155, which is the overall. Let's go to Ball 4, where there's not much activities going on there at this time. We still have expenses going on. That as far as year-to-date budget, we are running $16,964 below the budget. Special rec overall, the revenues did run above the budget for November, $967. The expenses ran below budget by $1,500, and overall for the month, we're $2,468 better in that account. Year-to-date, we're setting around $7,134 better than the expectations. A couple more items. The police, the expenses for the month ended for November at $1,202 below budget. The year-to-date figures is still $8,293 better than the budget for the police count. The payroll, we ended the month $2,876 below budget. However, for the year-to-date, we're still above the budget predictions by $18,484. Finally, I do want to mention that we did receive the new bond proceeds on December 12th for $610,000. We will be making Also, two debt certificate payments this month, before the end of the month. For the 2009 series, we're going to be making a payment of around $147,067. And for the 2015 series, we're going to make payment of around $30,687. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Russ. Always appreciated the thoroughness. Are there any questions for Commissioner Ham?
Russ, do you know why we went over in the recreation area?
As far as the month expenses, okay, as far as the expenses for the month, we ran below budget for 1,500. Okay?
5,000?
The year-to-date, we're still setting better than the budget projections.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what number you're referring to.
I was thinking of this, this number that you gave us below the budget overall sitting, okay, better than the expected in November. Okay.
Well, there's Lakeview that we're still, we're running better as far as the month is concerned, and also we're below the budget
Okay,
for all those accounts
okay.
for Lakeview.
And so we ended 382 above the overall projection?
For the recreation account.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
So most of the monthly accounts are all running better than the budget.
Okay.
The only account that we're really looking at that is a little bit higher than predictions is the payroll area. Everything else for the year-to-date is pretty much in line or below the budget, what's in the budget amounts.
Okay.
And the payroll aspect is because we didn't accurately estimate what adding 4 ball fields would cost us in maintenance. So it was a learning year for us, but yeah, that's where we see the differential.
To make that up, Rachel's volunteered to work without pay for the month.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
Thank
You
you,
didn't know
Rachel.
that right up until then, did you?
That's
Thank
the
you.
second thing I've been volunteered for this month. Do not print that, Pat. It's not true.
We'll see how fast that circulates.
Right. Headline.
So if there are no additional questions, I would appreciate a motion to approve the bills and transfers in the monthly financial statements as published.
Move to approve bills and transfers and monthly financial statements.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hemingway,
Aye.
Commissioner Pettigrew,
Aye.
Commissioner Ham,
Aye.
Commissioner Weiss.
Aye.
Then the bills and transfers, monthly financial statements stand approved as published. We have no one signed up for an open public presentation. That comes to the president's report. I cannot remember if I mentioned it before, but I will be going on to the IAPD, the Illinois Association of Park District Board of Trustees, for a second term. I think that was probably a brief moment of loss of judgment, but whatever. I will reserve any other comments for later in the agenda.
Very good. Well, things at the office have just been a lot of end of the year wrap up. So lots of meetings, like with our insurance agents and starting to discuss contracts for the 2019 year with the youth leagues and our concessionaire out at Veterans Park. Lots of meetings with Chris about budgets. Him and I kind of grimace every time we see each other because we are afraid that we're going to have to talk about budgets a little bit more. So that's really been our area of focus. but applaud Chris on all of what he does. It's a thankless job, unfortunately. So, and then right now in the midst of staff evaluations and getting everybody wrapped up, and I've encouraged everybody to set goals for their department this year. A lot of what we're doing this month is new in the district, so there's been a little bit of growing pains. We've not done an actual formal evaluation in the last decade, to my understanding, and we've not had department goals, so this will give me something to, base my evaluations on for next year, very much like you guys do for me, so that's, oh, okay. Welcome. In other news, for other planning, we're prepping for our 2019 staff orientation. That's something that we started last year with an annual orientation with our management, and then we did a spring orientation for our seasonal staff. I believe that we'll have a little bit more of an intense orientation for seasonal staff this year, stuff that we've learned and saw that our staff could benefit from. So Superintendent of Support Services Armstrong and I are really working hard on that and getting all of those preparations put in place. To mention the number that Russ discussed for Ball 4, we did experience a loss this year at Ball 4 that the district has never experienced at Ball 4, and we're not sure if that was weather related. We did have a lot of closures due to weather, whether that was heat or rain, or it was just an off year for us. But we are going to implement some changes next year to help offset those losses, because our district, we just can't experience a loss of that magnitude again. So people can expect to see some hour changes next year. We won't be open 7 days a week in our high season. Again, we didn't really experience a lot of traffic Monday through Wednesday, so we just won't be open those days. We'll be open by appointment or party, or, we still want it to be available to the public. But based on, Neil and I sat down and went by day-to-day numbers on what we saw every Monday, what we saw every Tuesday, what we saw every Monday in the batting cages. So we really broke it down and made evidence-based decisions on the data that was collected through 2018. So we're hoping that this will be another growing year, and once we start to see a little bit more usage from the general public, then maybe we can look at expanding those numbers. But we really want to make sure that we are basing our decisions and being financially responsible with the resources we've been given. So if this is something that the general public only really uses Thursday through Sunday, then we could put those dollars into resources that they're actually utilizing. So it will be, again, it'll be a growing year. We appreciate everybody's patience. We'll release all of that information probably come February, so everybody can plan properly. But again, I want to stress that we are available as always by appointment or reservation, so it still has that availability to the public if they'd like to utilize that space. In a more uplifting note, though, we have been in the midst of a letter writing campaign. As you all are very aware of the grant that we wrote, and I met with our IDNR representative about a month ago and was encouraged to get a couple of letters of support to kind of boost our grants position with, if it was something that the public actually wanted. And at first, I was encouraged only to reach out to public representatives, the mayor, maybe the school superintendent, and with Macomb being a small town, I thought that's just not enough letters. So I opened it up to the general public, and to date, we have received 77 confirmations of letters to be sent. I have copies of 46 of those letters that have actually been put in the mail. So kind of hoping that IDNR is so annoyed that they will just grant us the entirety of the funds, so we'll stop sending letters. But I have to give a shout out to the community. We have had letters from all organizations across the board, residents, it's just been really phenomenal. I don't think there's a service agency that has not sent in a letter. So we greatly appreciate everybody's support. And, you know, again, this is one of those things that hopefully just benefits everybody. It's not just for the lights. There are recreational components that had to be put into place for us to qualify for the grant, as, again, you all are very aware. But there's a lot of good things that could come from this grant. So my understanding is that we will hear something from them at the first of the year for an invitation to give our 3-minute in-person presentation, because I don't know what I can get out beyond my name and the name of the facility in 3 minutes, but I'm very looking forward to that challenge, because that is all the time that you are given. So again, we're really, really grateful for everybody stepping up and sending those letters. And then, holiday closures. As always, our staff is granted a little reprieve during this time. They've all put in 60 to 80 hours during the summer that we can't, you know, really give back to them for. So as it is one of our slower periods, we will be closed Christmas Eve, and then we will reopen January 2nd. Typically, we are open until noon on Christmas Eve. But it being a Monday, I feel kind of bad asking staff to come in at that time, and everybody's traveling on Christmas Eve. We don't normally get any phone calls. So I will be putting my work cell phone on the announcement. If there's anybody who needs anything, I will be the Park District staff on call, but the rest of the staff, we're going to just go ahead and say enjoy time with your family. So yes, yeah, and that's all very much deserved. The staff put in one heck of a year this year. So, and with that said, my very last thing is just, we have an amazing staff at the Macomb Park District. I'm very blessed to be able to work with such amazing people who just believe in what the Park District stands for and what Macomb is and what Macomb can be. And I stand up and get the opportunity to take a lot of credit for a lot of things that go on in this district that I probably, I only deserve a quarter of the credit for. So our staff is just phenomenal. And I appreciate everything that they have done for me and everything that they have done for Macomb in 2018, and the amount of dedication that I see them already putting into 2019, and we're still a couple weeks away. At the same time, we're only a couple of weeks away. So, but a huge thank you to all of the staff that I have the honor of working with at the Park District. And then also a huge thank you to the city of Macomb, the public. I mean, we received a lot of support in a lot of variety of ways this year. So it's a reassuring to me that we're doing what they want, and we're following in, the desires of the community. So here's looking to another solid year ahead of us.
Anything for the executive director? I did want to comment, Rachel and I had conversations over a couple of months about the steps she's taking to bring in goal-based evaluation of the staff, and as I understand it, tied with more frequent budget reporting and tracking of those numbers, in part in response to some of the things that Commissioner Hammond identified earlier today. And Rachel is absolutely correct that for quite a while, we have not had a data-driven or a goal-driven personnel process. And I was very pleased. This is Rachel's initiative, I want to stress, but I was very pleased when she raised it with me. And I think it reflects the kind of goal-driven, data-driven approach that we've begun to implement with Rachel herself in her annual reviews. And it just sort of is now going to trickle down. And I think that is a very positive step. We are a small organization, but details get lost in small organizations, just as in big ones. Commissioner Ham?
Yes, thanks for acknowledging. I'd like to also say that evaluating the programs that we've had in the past, and she's bringing on a lot of new programs to the community, that this has become a necessary thing to evaluate the number of participants and the cost to the district. And I think a lot of the new ideas that you're bringing allows us to have a measurement to see which way directions we should continue going in the future. So thank you on that.
Thank you.
Is there anything else for the director? Then we have one action item on the agenda, which is our levy. This is ordinance number 330, and its full title, which is required for the record, an ordinance levying and assessing the taxes of the Macomb Park District for the calendar year beginning January 1, 2019, and ending December 31, 2019. We have already had our bond appropriation, and we hear that we've got that in. So what is here is our standard operating operating levy to support essentially the day-to-day operations of the district, as well as to meet our financial obligations in things like employee pensions and insurance and debt service and all of that. With that said, anybody that wants a full reading of this needs to consult somebody else than me, because we will all be asleep pretty quickly.
I can give a brief,
If you would like to do that.
yeah.
I was kind of
Yeah.
hinting in that direction.
I know. So what I do to put the levy together, I reach out to our county clerk, Gretchen, and she helps me with providing me with the assessed evaluation, equalized assessed valuation for the city of Macomb. And then she also gives me some insight onto new construction that we have had in the city, and those are both taxable numbers for us. So we base the initial levy off of the EAV, the equalized assessed value, and then after we go through the levy of the different funds that we get to have percentages of, then we get to add on that new construction at the end based on the number given to me by Gretchen. So we have several accounts that are fixed. We are a PTEL county, so we cannot go over a certain percentage. We can't grow 105%, otherwise we have to go to a truth and taxation hearing like we experienced last year. But this year, we didn't have the percentage of growth that we saw last year. Last year was, because of PILA coming onto the tax rolls and all of that. So anyway, I always levy at and a little bit above what Gretchen gives us. It's what's recommended. Just in case there is a cent that is missed, that is a cent we could never get back. And after 50 years, that's a certain amount of money that
Sure.
we'll never see again. So, just to make sure that I am getting the district the full amount that it should be awarded. These numbers won't match exactly what we'll get back, but they will be hopefully pretty close based on the numbers that she gave me. So.
Anybody that refers to the science of budgeting is telling you a fib. It's an art. So have we any questions on this?
Just real quickly, I was looking for the overall dollar amount, if everything was added together that you're expecting, the sum.
Yep, I
What was that?
don't have that number on me, but it's just a little over 600,000.
600,000?
Yeah, so our
Is that-
total is about 1.2.
That's about where it was last year, a
Yep.
little above?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, yeah. And last year, our levy was a little bit higher than we received. It being my first year, I based my number off of the wrong EAV. So there is a city, and then there's a special tax, and we're in the special district. So ours is just a little bit less than. This is the correct number. Thanks to Gretchen
Thank
only
you.
sending me one.
Thanks.
Yes.
Then if there are no other comments or questions, and motion to approve ordinance 330 would be in order.
I would like to move that the ordinance levying and assessing the taxes of the Macomb Park District for the calendar year beginning January 1, 2019, December 31st, 2019, ordinance number 330 be approved.
Is there a second to that?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve 330 as published. A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Pettigrew,
Aye.
Commissioner Ham,
Aye.
Commissioner Weiss,
Aye.
Commissioner Hemingway.
Aye. Ordinance number 330, the levy ordinance stands approved as published. The next item on the agenda is informational. As we look ahead to January's meeting, I had sent you, and I think it was supposed to have been included in packets. There is some question as to whether it actually made it into the packets, but I had sent you an overview of what's involved with the office of board president. And I'm going to go ahead and just sort of do a summary of that through the magic of the cloud, because my copy is fortunately saved there. And what I want to basically get across as much for, oh, thank you very much, as to the commissioners, you're familiar with some of this, but I think also it helps some people understand some of the differences between this body and others. The references for this are the Park District Code and also an Illinois Park District law handbook that the Illinois Association of Park Districts publishes as well. There are some differences according to different jurisdictions depending on the referendum that was used to create the Park District. But in Macomb, we elect the Park District president off the board. All right. The term is 4 years. And there is always a coda on these things that the president shall serve until her or his successor shall be elected. So if there's a deadlock or if nobody wants to step forward and do things, then who's ever in the office is stuck. Unless, of course, he or she thoroughly resigns and flees the jurisdiction, in which case the vice president is stuck. So the qualifications for the office of president is simply board membership. There is no requirement of a certain amount of time or having held other offices. It's just that the person be a qualified board member. The vice president is elected in precisely the same manner, and the qualifications are exactly the same. The vice president assumes the president's duties if the president is absent or unable to fulfill them, but does not assume the office of president. The vice president remains the president. Obviously, that individual can be elected into the office, but That's not how it happens. The duties of the president, believe it or not, are really only very vaguely described in the code. Essentially, they're described as running the meetings. Now, there is a great deal of other law and the legal status of the board that has led to accepted duties. I'll touch on those for a second. But one thing that the code does empower the board to do is to itself establish the duties and powers of its president. I guess you'd say a job description, in a sense. That is something this board has never done. All right, so for the offices, president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, we are simply working with what our accepted practice has been, and that is all well within the bounds of the body of law that's emerged out there. When we look to this next item here, number 6, one of the things that people are often a little puzzled by and surprised by is the rather unique status of this board. This board is a legislative body. It has it's a governing entity in the sense that we are the corporate authority. All right? But there are some details that get added in the law handbook, and the law handbook is based on recognized practice and court cases that have been decided. And the first of these things is that we are, again, a legislative body. We set the rules and policies for the efficient operation of the district. Our authority is legislative only. We do not have administrative or executive responsibilities. That is sometimes a difficult learning point for new commissioners. 'Twas for me, and it has been for most other people, and it in one case led to some considerable discussion on the board about 10 years ago, and we had to get some things resolved. Thus, the commissioner conduct policy that you all received when you were, filing for office or first appointed to the board. We have financial governance and fiduciary that is caretaking responsibility, but we don't have managerial, programmatic, or operational authority. Okay? That ties into the second point, that it is the professional staff and district employees who are responsible for that. Very much as Rachel just said, and I would echo and will echo again here in a second, her praise of our people, they're the ones that make this go. Our job is to get them pointed in a broad general policy direction and make sure they have what they need to do their jobs, and then stand aside and let them do their jobs. Okay? And quite specifically, the president of a park district board does not possess independent executive powers other than those might be granted through that job description earlier referenced. The president is responsible for running the meetings, trying to keep people's hands from around each other's throats, to create the agenda, to essentially be a public face on the board as needed. But the other members of the Board of Commissioners also have influence over the agenda. Any two people can request that an item be added. Any two people can ask that a special meeting be called. So it is very much a structure built for consensual operation and oversight rather than direction. Sometimes people come on, I've seen it once or twice, people come on with a very specific agenda and then get frustrated because they find out that it's not quite as easy. You can't advocate for that or try to implement it the same way you could on a county board or a city council. We operate differently. And we haven't, I've been in this chair a long time, so we haven't had to deal with any of these issues. And I think we've got a really well-functioning board right now. I'm absolutely delighted with the way the board is functioning. It's critical but cooperative and consensual. So I just thought I wanted to, there's, in addition to the people that are up here, there's also stuff in the code, in the law that tries to push it in that direction. And I just thought this meeting would be a good one to review that before we come to some discussion and decisions at the January meeting. So I hope it was at least mildly interesting, mildly amusing, and didn't lead you saying, why is it going over this? So, but I'm glad to answer any questions. The references, I need to pass this back down. The references to the sources are in good academic fashion, are right there. I'll answer any questions or.
Basically, as we operate as a board, we can meet during the months, two of us together, and not be in violation of the Open Meetings Act, and kind of talk about committee stuff, because we don't really have any formal committees set up at this time that you direct as the president. I mean, you have not issued and said, hey, we got this issue, and so we're going to form this committee, and you be the chair of that committee.
We've tried that, in the past. We had a steering committee and a finance committee, and they still exist on the books, but they were in place to deal with some fairly specific circumstances that don't seem to apply to this group of people. It's, the law, the Open Meetings Act, has been amended now to allow us on a 5-person board for 2 people to talk to each other. Okay, we can all talk to each other at a social occasion, but we cannot enter into any kind of business discussion. So even the question of, we're having a cup of coffee after the meeting, and Valencia says, boy, that was a knockdown, drag-out kind of fight on that. We're into stuff that we just don't, we talk about. But absolutely, that's the case. And every member of the board has access to the executive director in the same way that the president does. It's just that the president meets more so that keep abreast, communicate, and begin to form the agendas and sort of steer things through.
That's been my experience for the last 2 years. And it's been a pleasure working you as a leader of the board, because you're a good example and you have a lot of experience and knowledge. And I'm glad to hear you're going to continue providing that knowledge to the board.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's been a labor of love. So, well, with that, if there aren't any other items to be discussed, we have open commissioner presentation and discussion. Is there anything for the good of the order that people want to lay onto our executive shoulders to prepare for the next meeting, or?
As I understand, John, you have indicated in the prior meetings that you are wanting to move aside to allow someone to take over the position of the president.
If that's what the board wishes to do, then I'm willing to do that.
Okay. That's one thing that we will be discussing in January's
It's already on the agenda.
Okay. And then we also have new board members. Let's see, no, we won't have that until
Not to
April.
people.
Okay.
Now, the election is in April. We will seat officially in May. And then that will also be when we would conduct another presidential and vice presidential election. That's our actual cycle. I just felt that the start of the year made a certain amount of sense, a slow time. In January, we will also have our FOIA and OMA officer elections and our treasurer, assistant treasurer, secretary, assistant secretary. That's a standard procedure in January. The FOIA and the OMA are by law. And in the past, we've just, unless people have to be held down and convinced, we've just basically continued people in office.
I'm sure Chris will be happy to hear it.
There was a whispered comment, folks, that's why you're hearing some of the laughter. Well, then I want to thank each of you for your hard work and cooperation through the year. As I said, the board has been functioning, I think, very well consensually. People have been doing their jobs and asking good questions, tough questions. That's much appreciated. There's a lot of work that goes into this. Thank Joe O'Donnell for his work as our board attorney. He claims he doesn't do anything, but his presence here is a steady rock and all that. But most of all, I want to reiterate from the board to the staff and the professional employees of the Park District what the executive director said earlier. This does not happen without you, and we appreciate it, the hard work. It seems like a pretty happy crew over there right now. Occasionally a little too exuberantly happy, perhaps, but they are park and recreation professionals, and so you'd better get used to that. So thank you to all of you who work and volunteer for the Park District. It's much appreciated. And to the community for your support. The Park District is here because of you. And with that, I wish each, well, go ahead. Okay.
I was just going to move if.
Well, hang on a second. With that, I wish each and every one of you a happy holiday season, a good start to the new year. May you not have the executive director's recent experience with wildlife on the road. But I'm outing her right here. So Merry Christmas to everybody out there and safe holidays, and we will be back in January. A motion to adjourn?
Like to move that we adjourn?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And we stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Did you get a deer?
I got a deer.